It was a Thursday night in Tai Long, and the city was bustling with activity. But in a small alleyway in the Dachi district, panic was in the air. Residents of several apartment buildings had just noticed that their houses were starting to tilt. At first, it was only a slight tilt, but it was getting worse. One of the residents, an elderly woman named Mrs. Wang, was particularly worried. She lived alone in her apartment and feared what would happen if the building collapsed. Just then, a young man named John rushed into the alley. He was a volunteer firefighter who had heard about the tilting apartments. "Don't worry, Mrs. Wang," John reassured her. "I'm here to help." John helped Mrs. Wang pack her belongings and evacuate her apartment. He then went door to door, helping other residents evacuate. By the time the evacuation was complete, John had helped more than 100 people to safety. He was exhausted, but undoubtedly a hero. The next day, the city government announced that it would provide financial assistance to affected residents. They also promised to work with the developer to ensure the safety of the tilting apartments. Mrs. Wang was grateful for the help she received from John and the other volunteers. She said she would never forget their kindness and bravery. John was modest about his actions. He said he only did what anyone else would have done. However, to the residents of the tilting apartments, he was a hero. Mr. Smith, the owner of the construction company, held a press conference to apologize for the disaster at his apartment buildings. He expressed deep sorrow for the victims and their families and vowed to take full responsibility. He stated that he would do everything in his power to make things right, including compensating the victims for their losses and ensuring the safety of the apartment buildings. He also announced that he would conduct a thorough investigation into the disaster to determine its causes and prevent its recurrence. The moral: the construction process for buildings is critical and must follow strict safety guidelines to ensure that everything is done safely and correctly. Any mistake can be fatal. Most importantly, never cut corners or jerry-build a structure, as this could put people in danger. Think about it: if your family were to live in that building, would you want it to be built with inferior materials and construction methods?